Oka. Oka, Penyamat. Miyepa. Do you all hear me back there? Are you sure? Don't lie to me. Okay. Well, Manuela, welcome. I am Dr. Stan Rodriguez. I'm going to be your MC this morning. Oh, hey, thank you. No, actually, I was going to grab some breakfast, but they told me come over here. Anyway, so welcome to this beautiful Saturday morning, and it's going to be an action-packed day. A lot of information is coming. We're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn a lot from each other. But before we do that, in our traditions, we start off first with a blessing. So I would like to ask Elders Ernest Siva and Elder Kim Marcus, please. Yeah.
Jam Oman. Welcome to all of us and you. I am going to do our blessing. Mukum Ernie, my uncle, is not able to be here. Marinyaham, we're Marinyaham people, we're Serrano people. That's why we wanted to open this area. I have an assistant of mine, Mr. Wayne Cortez from Torres Martinez, is going to help me. We'd like to open up the area if you'd like to stand and acknowledge our area. Warchipert, San Bernardino, that's what they call it, our people's area here in Serrano. Yuri is this San Bernardino Mountains here. Quirakaich is the San Gregorio Mountains, the sacred mountains that we're talking about. And Ayakaich is the Mount San Jacinto, all these sacred holy places. This is our sacred area. We'd like to welcome you and open up with our blessing. Greatness, Mokai, Protect, Be back in heaven, noble people, our ancestors, Oan ka Piba, Tamaka ka kitchen for Kawe ka house, Beto, Jamson, and Stairway of the Gospel, Jamson, look over and Oma, all of us. Democrat. Oh, I'm yet at the oh, Gabriel got south. Oh, all way up. Oh, house above. Oh, then we'll make it below sacred earth. Oh! Gems and M's on your part. Shanna. Put it. Reader. Oh! Please be seated.
Amen.
Dancers, we want to come right here. We can all squeeze in. Cheek to cheek. Welcome to everybody. Here's our welcoming song for you. give honor to our men and women that are going to sing and dance for us. So let's give them a big hand. Singing about Wea, Yoima, cold weather, which is great for us. Thank you.
Oh, hey. Thank you very much. And I just wanted to say, Mr. Marcus, that we're talking about the elder, Unasiva. One time him and I were talking. His stepfather is my uncle, John Maxie. And he looked at me and said, that makes us cousins. I said, I guess so. And he taught me how to make a flute. But, we all get tied in together one way or another. So this is my cousin we're honoring too. Thank you very much. So next, we'd like to welcome President Tomas Morales and Elder Robert Levi from California State University, San Bernardino, right? And
Mihuan. I'm Robert Levi. I'm a citizen of the Torres Martinez Desert Kuya Indians. And again, welcome to our territory and territories that we have also with the Yahaviatam. And I get to do the land acknowledgement. So I'm going to do it twice since I didn't do it last night. No, I'm kidding. So anyway, the music you're listening to coming in, those are our bird songs from the desert. That's my father who is singing. So wherever we go, I've donated those songs here to the CSUSB to play for such gatherings like this, especially for Native Californians and Indians in general. So that's my family's gift to everybody here. So enjoy. So you have them. Okay. Thank you. My father would be pleased. With respect and humility, we gather here today to acknowledge the land that we have been here since time immemorial. We honor the California Native people, the Yahavitam, the Iwiliwenetam, the Payukonwicham, and the Tongva, those Indians who have lived in this area and who have visited also. We also reside on or use the natural resources that are here today with us, and that those natural resources that we humbly and do respectfully acknowledge. Also, we recognize the invasion and colonization of the territory by the Spanish, American, British, and Russian countries, along with the assimilation processes of Mexico. If you were here yesterday, we talked about Father Sarah. This taken and unceded land is now used to remember those incidents that we have had in the past. But now today, we use them to heal. It's a healing process that we have with everybody here that's involved in this event. Where am I at? Oh, and to remember that this land is here and will be here since time immemorial. That also this land is tribal land. It's our land, and we welcome everybody on it. So again, like Dr. Rodriguez said, welcome, and everybody have a great day today. Thank you very much.
Buenos dias, good morning. Good morning, thank you, yes, yes. On behalf of Chancellor Mildred Garcia and the Board of Trustees, I welcome you to Cal State San Bernardino for this meaningful education summit focusing on Native American indigenous communities. Words cannot describe how proud we are as a university community to partner with President Townsend and Scenic and her family, and how proud I am to serve the Chancellor as the university's presidential advisor for Native American initiatives. There is so much going on in the CSU. Don't forget, from Humboldt to San Diego, that presidents are engaged. Chancellor Garcia gets it. We have a wonderful relationship with the commission, and we continue to move forward. This is a very significant meeting today and last night and today. I wish to underscore how important improving access to higher education and improving the pipeline of Native American students, both to the CSU and to the entire California State University San Bernardino community. I'll share with you very briefly that as a Kellogg Fellow, I visited 2 tribal colleges when I served as provost at Cal Poly Pomona. So I know firsthand how significant establishing an accredited tribal college, or 2, or 3, in the state of California. It's well overdue, as Assemblymember Ramos and others stated last night. We have a stellar group of speakers and participants, and indeed, I want to thank President Celeste Townsend and her team for doing an incredible job pulling this summit together. I also want to thank our and acknowledge really our elected leaders who are here, who also see the same vision that was articulated last night. And I want to acknowledge the faculty, the staff, and most importantly, the students, our community activists, for being here and participating in this summit. I'm eager for us to get started. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite up President Celeste Townsend, President of the California Indian Nations College, and doctoral candidate. Come on.
Pisha, pisha. Pisha means thank you. And that's in Northern Paiute. And I'll tell you what, I want to begin with gratitude for everybody here, primarily our Coahuila people who have taken on, and the Serrano songs, and just an amazing blessing to have everybody here. This is the first of its kind in many years, and it's not the last. And the best part about it is that everybody in here is a learner, is a student. I'm a student, and I'm happy to be a student because I was recruited by Dr. Stan Rodriguez. Couldn't be recruited by anybody better. I want to thank Cal State San Bernardino, President Tomas Morales, Vice President Nava, but I don't see my staff in here because they're outside working their tails off. And I want you to know, they have been working relentlessly to get this going. They've worked with so many of you to be here. Our board of trustees, if you could wave your hands. Let me tell you, they are the board of trustees for the first 2B tribal college in the state of California in decades. I also want to thank Senators Richard Roth for being here. If you could please raise your hand. And Senator Maria Elena Durazo. And if there's anybody else that I forget to mention, please accept my sincere apologies. There's just so many people. I see so many faces of supporters. But what I really want you to do, everybody who's a student, stand up. These are our people to celebrate. Roseanne, stand up. Whether you're a student of SYNC, a student of another college, you are our leaders. You are our future leaders. And this is why we're here today, to not just educate, strengthen, and empower our students. We want every single Native student to feel that they are getting and worthy of a high quality education. We deserve it. We need it. And we're going to make sure you have access to it. But like I said last night, access is not inclusion. Dr. Anthony Jack made that statement when he was writing his dissertation for Harvard University. And he did it on the privileged poor, the doubly disadvantaged, and those who are marginalized students. And I encourage anybody, if you have not read that book, it's called Privileged Poor by Dr. Anthony Jack. I'm not here to promote him, but you want to relate to students who struggle in universities and really understanding the struggle that we have, not just academically, socially. This is what you're going to learn today in our many sessions. So with that, I just want you all to know that the TCUs, tribal colleges and universities, California is a home to over 1.4 million people who claim to be Native Americans. And as they stated earlier, not one tribal college in decades. That's disheartening. And the funding to emerge a tribal college is unbelievable. We had a one-time disbursement. Thank you, Assemblymember Ramos and all the state constituents for pushing that through for us. But that's not where it stops. When you're operating a college and people are saying it's, oh, you just need $1 million, here's $50, here's $5,000, it's more than gratitude that we appreciate that, but it's very hard when people don't trust Indian education the way it has been. So we want to thank you for those of you have been contributing to believe in our educational system that we're providing. But we need you all your support to participate today in many other events that we have so that we can push the state and the federal government to come up with funding for emerging tribal colleges. We're needed. We understand our people. We understand our students, the bullying, to have to get a special request and take it to the news to wear your regalia to graduation. It just doesn't make sense. To have to cut your hair because you're a young man, to get bullied and ridiculed, that doesn't make sense. That's the norm for us, and we want them to know that when you go to a university, we don't want to be segregated into a different building, a different area of a campus. It needs to be the norm. We need to celebrate all people of color. And when I say that, Latinos, African Americans, Asians, Hawaiians, all of us have been ignored too long. and have been bullied. The kids are bullied, and we need to make sure we make a change. Thank you. So last night, those of you that missed, we have amazing students with Kumeyaay Community College, California Indian Nations College, and we need to be reminded the relentless challenges that they are overcoming. Support your student. Support any student that's going on to education. It doesn't matter how old you are when you begin and when you finish, and if you ever finish, become a lifelong learner. Encourage them. And I'll tell you, I see some younger students, and I'm going to point you out in that third row. Thank you for being here. We're here for you. All of you. He's like me. So one of the things that we do at TCUs, tribal colleges and universities, we understand the lack of accessibility and inclusion. We understand the historical and multi-generational traumas that have been in this distrusted American educational system. We understand the social dynamics of two worlds, especially when it comes to ceremonial seclusion, traditions, and celebrations. And we understand the works to amend the systemic and systematic standards that operate through social perceptions and biased ideologies. So with that, I just want to thank all of you. Stay here, stay engaged, but I do want to, and I don't see her, Janine Jordan. Oh, I want her to come up here. She is our new Director of Development, and this woman is coming with a vengeance to get you on board to support the college. Janine.
Thank you, Klianakpak Celeste. I didn't know that I was coming up here to speak. Atika Janine Jordan Kakkin. My family is actually from the native village of Unalakleet, which is, if you know where Nome is on a map, it's south of Nome. I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska. I'm super happy to be a part of SYNC. I think it is really incredible that we have a mission of supporting tribal colleges within the state of California. And I'm just honored to be a part of this and to help seek funding and monies for such a strong organization. So thank you.
Just one final word. I just want to thank you all. Enjoy today. Pisha Kabibaga. Have a wonderful day. Dr. Stan, you know I love you like a brother and a mentor, and I'm just so thankful you made it. And I know a lot of you have traveled distances to be here. Enjoy your day. Thank you.
Oh, hey, and I like to have fun. I really enjoy life. But some of the things that you said, you know, these are things that we and our people have had to endure. I beaded my granddaughter's eagle feather, and the shul, Valhalla, wouldn't let her wear it. They said she could wear it around her neck and put it inside her robe. I said that was wrong. Well, my son graduated a year later, and I told him, you know what they say you cannot do, but do it anyway. And he walked up while he was walking, and he put that eagle feather on and walked by and just looked at me, and he smiled. And I said, Huahuahan, you are a true warrior. And that's what all of you young people are, true warriors. Don't ever forget the words here. Thank you. So now we have a message from Senator Alex Padilla. Are you ready? Let's do this.
Hi, I'm Senator Alex Padilla, and it's an honor to join California Indian Nations College for today's Education Summit. I want to thank my friends with the 29 Palms Band of Mission Indians, the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians, and the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians for making today possible. I also want to thank President Celeste Townsend, Dr. Stan Rodriguez, and all of the tribal, federal, and state leaders gathered here with the sole focus of uplifting Native American students. Because the truth is, even in the year 2024, Native American students continue to face barriers to higher education. Whether it's lower enrollment rates, higher dropout rates, or insufficient financial resources, we have so much more work to do to level the playing field for Indigenous students. And it's not just a moral obligation we hold, it's part of our federal trust responsibility to tribes. Tribal communities deserve an equal chance at a safe, healthy, and prosperous life in the United States. And what could be more fundamental to a prosperous life than a good education? Now in Washington, I've taken that responsibility seriously, working to reduce barriers to higher education. That includes by co-sponsoring the College for All Act, which would make the most significant federal investment in higher education in modern history. If passed, it would double mandatory funding for tribal colleges and universities, as well as historically black colleges and universities and other minority-serving institutions. It would also ensure that the vast majority of students attending these universities can attend tuition and debt-free. I'll continue fighting to increase the resources that Native American students need to attend and succeed in school. But we can do more for those students, hoping for a sense of community and respect for their heritage in California. And that's why the work that you do is so important. The sense of belonging, the culturally responsive curriculum, and the quality education you provide is changing the lives of so many. So continue pushing for more opportunities. Continue building the communities that are providing so much hope to the next generation of tribal leaders. And thank you for all that you're doing to support our students.
Now, I would like to ask, and I'm going to try not to brutalize your name, Anawek Rose from AHEC, American Indian Higher Education Consortium. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm in the place of Naomi Miguel because she was up late last night, and that's why the senator wasn't here, trying to pass a budget, which they actually did. So she'll be here in just a little bit. She needed a little bit of sleep, I think, this morning. It was a very late night budget. But I want to start off by thanking, I would have thanked Naomi because she would have gone just before me, but President Townsend, thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Anawek Rose, and I'm the Vice President for Congressional and Federal Relations for the American Indian Higher Education Consortium. And I am really excited to be here because this is actually my first trip to a tribal college in this role. So I'm so excited that I get to be here with you as you're launching this and that I get to participate. So thank you. Thank you so very much. So I read this to my daughter a couple of times, who's hanging out at the hotel. She says it's not too boring, so hang in there with me. Tribal colleges emerged in the late 1960s with a group of Navajo leaders who asked their people, how do we want education to look? And that was the day that the tribal college movement began. That was the day that they had ceremony, they had prayer, and that was the beginning of a new movement for higher education. It creates a way for us to teach from our own worldview, from our culture, from our language, and from our traditions. And we have flourished since then. 5 tribal colleges quickly followed and founded in ceremony and prayer and dedicated to their community. Each is a place-based institution teaching from their different worldviews. And in 1973, those colleges came together and formed the American Indian Higher Education Consortium, or AHEC. We're a nonprofit organization, and we're governed by a board of directors making up of a president of each of the tribal colleges and universities. So in short, I have 35 bosses. For 50 years, we have served as the collective spirit and the unifying voice of our nation's 35 accredited TCUs and now our new developing institution, California Indian Nations University. And I just had a chance to meet someone here from Pawnee Nation College. I'm so excited that you're here as well. Together, we are a unique community of tribally and federally chartered institutions working together to strengthen tribal nations and make lasting differences in the lives of American Indians and Alaska Natives. The nation's 35 TCUs operate on more than 90 campuses in 15 states. Our geographic boundaries encompass 80% of American Indian reservations and federal Indian trust lands. TCU students represent more than 250 federally recognized tribes and hail from more than 30 states. Nearly 80% of our students receive financial aid, and nearly half are first-generation students. In total, TCUs serve about 160,000 natives and other rural residents each year through a wide variety of programs, including academic and community-based services. TCUs are public institutions. We are chartered by federally recognized Indian tribes or the federal government. The criteria and the standards are unambiguous. Tribal control is the central pillar. And that first question, how do we want education to look, continues to inform our tribal colleges. We can see it in the two main reasons tribal nations established TCUs: to preserve and promote culture and language, and to create economic opportunities and strengthen sovereignty. A key goal for every tribal college is to prepare Native students for lifelong careers that will help sustain families, strengthen identity, and help tribal nations flourish economically and socially. So how do tribal nations do this? How do our TCUs, that's a lot of responsibility, accomplish this? First, as I've said, we are place-based institutions, and we serve our local tribal nations. As place-based institutions, we are committed to nation building. Tribal colleges offer certificate and degree programs in nearly every subject or field needed to sustain and rebuild tribal nations. Education, environmental science, allied health fields, business, entrepreneurship, engineering, native language revitalization, and on and on. In total, we offer 930 associate or bachelor's degrees. 19 tribal colleges offer 4-year degrees, 8 have master's degrees, and 1 recently a PhD program. Even though we have a lot of degree programs, we are still very small. The average attendance for our schools is between 100 and 2,000 in-person full-time students annually, but we serve many thousands more through our community programs. The majority of our first-time students are the ages of 16, 24, and single, so a typical college student age. But at many of our tribal colleges, the average student is a single mother in her late 20s or early 30s. What makes our tribal college community unique is that we meet our students wherever they are in the spectrum, providing holistic, wraparound services for students to support them as they work to achieve their goals. Culture is the core of the curriculum, and culture, language, community, and tribal values support all of our students. Tribal colleges also focus on workforce and career skill building activities, internships, apprenticeship programs, and life workforce skills, and research programs that are relevant to our community. And data shows that it's paying off. We did a recent study with Lakota Ojibwe University for their nursing program, and they had a 100% employer satisfaction rate, and 96% of our students were placed locally. Thank you, that's huge. And TCUs prepare professionals for high demand fields, including agriculture and natural resource management, by teaching the job skills most in demand on our homelands. We lay the foundation for tribal economic growth, which is the only way to move tribes and our citizens to self-sufficiency. But we know that workforce development is not enough. We must do more to accelerate our move towards self-sufficiency, and we need to move beyond simple workforce training. Today, our TCUs are tackling this much tougher but much more significant issue of job creation. because we know that to break the cycle of generational poverty and to end the culture of dependency that grips so much of Indian country, simply filling jobs that would be filled anyways is not enough. We must create new industries and new businesses and build a new culture of innovation. One such initiative that I'll highlight is an advanced manufacturing initiative with the partnership of U.S. Department of Energy, the national laboratories, our TCUs, and other industries. We are seeing the result in new tribal industry partnerships now, new contracting opportunities, and new jobs for our students and our graduates. Tribal colleges continuously seek to instill hope and identity with Native youth, who will one day lead our tribal nations. Each TCU is directly accountable to its tribal community, and each one is committed to improving the lives of its students through higher education and moving American Indians and Alaska Natives to self-sufficiency. Our collective vision is strong tribal nations through excellence in tribal higher education. And to achieve this vision, TCUs have become workforce and job creation engines, public libraries, tribal archives, small business incubators, and community computer labs. They operate native language learning centers and immersion programs, community gardens, economic development centers, childcare centers, and applied research hubs for everything from natural resources to food sovereignty and community behavioral health. In short, our TCUs are answering the question, how do we want education to look in Indian country? And I and AHEC look forward to working with you to see how California tribal nations are going to answer this question at California Indian Nations College and UMA. Thank you.
Oh, hey, thank you for your words. And before I bring up the next one, no, I know where you live. It's beautiful. I just wanted to share that our first tribal college here in California started off at Alcatraz, 1969. Richard Oakes and many Native people from California, from all over, went to take over that island, wanted to create a tertiary institution. They were moved off, and they took over an abandoned Army communications base outside of Davis, and that became DQ University. Was also a member of AHEC. First tribal college, early 70s. I had the privilege of going to school there in 1975. I was 17 years old, so you could say I'm 22 times 3. But that school, flourished, and it created satellites. And one of the satellites was created in San Diego on the Sequan Reservation. And when DQ lost its accreditation, we decided to continue. And we became Kumeyaay Community College. And we've been growing ever since. And we have an accredited associate's degree through an MOU with Cuyamaca. And now we're working on pushing a bachelor's program through this August. And we can really use help with that. But accreditation, programs, funding, all of these, we're like a pot that's been shattered. We each have a shard from that pot. And if we can bring those shards together, we can create a very strong pot for our people. So with that, I wanted to invite our next speaker. No pressure. Okay, hang on, stand by. I don't want to mess your name up. Naomi, Ms. Miguel, Shabkai. I was hanging out with him for a while.
It's been a while since I've been asked that. Skuk siarik ani abjigi ba ag inodam ox como amateur chuchu safoy jukshan donatam nation. Good morning. My name is Naomi Miguel. My author name is Eagle Singing Woman. I'm from the village of Choo-Choo, which somebody has been to. It's very rare, so I'm really excited. It's in southern Arizona on the Thanatam Nation. I grew up there and then later came to Los Angeles to go to school at Mount St. Mary's University in LA, an all-women's Catholic college. I graduated from there with my bachelor's degree in political science with minors in pre-law and art. I tried to do 1 year of law school, was like, nope, that's not for me. And then I worked for a corporation, also realized that is not for me. And then I found the nonprofit sector. So I worked for the Tribal Law and Policy Institute in West Hollywood for about 6 years. And they did a really good job at supporting me in getting my master's. I got my master's degree from American University. I have a master's in public administration and policy. American University was the first place that I could do online. This was back in 2015, before that became the norm. So I didn't really meet any of my graduate cohort until graduation day, and we found out how tall and short everybody is. Which is now normal too, because we use Skype. But my nonprofit job gave me a really big support system and allowed me to also do Udall Foundation's Native American internship program in the summer of 2016. And that internship program, I interned for Representative Raul Grijalva, who is a representative in Southern Arizona. When I first met him, I told him, I've been voting for you since I'm 18, so this is my first time meeting you. Let's see what you do. And every year after that, I always told him, okay, you got my vote still. Very thankful to work for a member of Congress who grew up on my reservation and understands federal law, federal Indian law, and understands the federal trust responsibility that Congress has to tribes. So very thankful for being able to see that in Congress, but also understand that that is very rare. And then shortly after that, was tapped by the Biden administration to see if I wanted to become the executive director for the White House Initiative on Advancing Education, Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunity for Native Americans and Strengthening Tribal Colleges and Universities. It's a very long title. And yes, I do get a lot of little long-winded when I'm saying it. So for short, we usually just say the White House Initiative for Native Americans and Tribal Colleges and Universities. This initiative is housed in the Department of Education. We have 3 different co-chairs, the Secretary of Education, the Secretary of Interior, and the Secretary of Labor. All 3 secretaries we try to work with to make sure we are looking at education, early education, K through 12, secondary, post-secondary, tribal colleges and universities, but also looking at labor. Where is the workforce? What are we going to do to help impact that for tribes? And then looking at our Bureau of Indian Education folks, making sure that we're connecting with them and providing quality education for our tribal students. About 93% of Native American Alaska Native students attend public school in the United States. The rest of that percentage attends our Bureau of Indian Education. For those not familiar in this room, that is a very big underfunded piece of education that we have not funded fully. There are many schools that have been on a waiting list for school construction at the Bureau of Indian Education. They have been on that list since the early 90s. So just to give you an idea of the drastic underfunding that is occurring in Indian country, that is with the Bureau of Indian Education, and that is government-funded, government-run office that still isn't fully funding and functioning at the amount that it should be. So when you start talking about tribal colleges and universities and starting up tribal colleges and universities in states such as this, the amount of funding that needs to be given and helped for some of these tribal colleges and universities is very, very big, and it's a very big task. A lot of people give their time, they give their volunteering hours, and that's based off of the belief that they believe in these tribal colleges and universities. A lot of them are reflective of the communities that we see throughout Indian country. I've been very lucky to attend and go visit some of our tribal colleges and universities, and each one is so unique. For instance, at the Diné College in Arizona, they have a Master's of Fine Arts, where they utilize that fine arts perspective on the academic space to then connect to their tribal traditions, such as silver making, rugs. And so when you're able to have these different institutions that combine both Western academics and Indigenous knowledge, you tend to see our students thrive. And they thrive because they're finally finding a space that reflects them, that looks like them, and honors their teachings in a way that we'd never see in Western academics. Last night I was at a VIP dinner, and I mentioned in my speech then that the relationship of Native Americans and Alaska Natives in this country and education is not one that's always seen as good. In, I believe it was 1821, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, there was the Indian Civilization Act, and what that act did was created a legal plan for the federal government to erase natives. And by doing that through assimilation, and not only through assimilation, but through education, that created boarding schools. And if you look around, some of us are nodding our head because there's not any native in this room that wasn't impacted by that bill. And that bill was 200 years ago. We are still dealing with the fact that our government was trying to assimilate us and erase our language and our culture. So that's why tribal colleges and universities are so important, because they allow our children and our students and even our adults to learn about their cultures, but to ultimately be themselves, and being themselves in a world where we were taught not to be ourselves. And that type of thinking needs to go beyond academics. It needs to come from our community. As I mentioned last night too, I was attending another event over in Los Angeles, and one of the speakers there was really talking about the 4 principles that she identified as self-care. And before she even got into those principles of self-care, she mentioned at the very core of all of us, man or woman, gender aside, we all need a community. And that's what our tribal colleges and universities are. They are a community-created, community-led education institution that allows our students to come and learn about themselves, but also creates a safe space that they feel welcome. They feel a sense of belonging, and they feel a sense of self. And when you're going through that academic system that's not created for us, that type of camaraderie and support is much needed. So that's why it's important to see all of you here today, because it shows me on the national federal level that you are all committed to seeing the success of not only our students in this room, but for our 2 colleges that are here. And I'm very thankful for the support of the California State San Bernardino College and the Cal State system for allowing us to have this space. Because that's not always a space that's created. And especially at a time when we look at where we are right now nationally, we need to be recognizing each other and respectful of each other, in not only our cultures, but also in our ways. I'm very happy to be back in California as someone who graduated from here as a college student, because I see a lot of promise here. There's a lot of students who want to learn and innovate and teach. There are students who want to be more active in community and local politics, and there's a lot of promise here. So that's why I keep coming back. I was invited last year to come to a commencement for SYNC, and I met a lot of the students there. And you never meet these types of students in other institutions because they're at their core very much wanting to grow, but also wanting to give back to their community. So I think any community that wants to support a tribal community college and university in their area, and especially those tribes who are supporting these TCUs and even starting them up, you're creating a community that's going to be supporting you back and giving back to you tenfold. Because we're creating students that want to be in the workforce, we're creating students that want to give back to their community, and no matter how you cut it, at the core of it, they want to give back to our community. And that community includes Native and non-Natives in the state. So if we stand and start supporting these TCU efforts, I think all of us in this room have the ability to create that change. The White House Initiative is housed in the Department of Education. The Secretary of Education, his priorities is looking at teacher retention initiatives. He wants to make sure our classrooms look like the community themselves. In doing a lot of this work, I had to also reflect on myself and think if I ever had a Native teacher, and I don't think I actually have. So a lot, not in a formal sense, I guess I should explain that. So when we're talking and thinking about our futures and seeing ourselves reflected in the classroom, we also need to see ourselves reflected in institutions. Institutions that can allow us to utilize our own traditional knowledge, not only on an academic basis, but also on a basis that it's helping the community. And those types of systems is what we need to start thinking about changing. When we're talking about inclusivity, we want to make sure that these Native students who are coming to you from two-year colleges feel supported or have a space that they feel supported. I always think back of when I went to college. I grew up on the reservation and then moved to Los Angeles. And reflecting back on it now, I don't know how I did that or why I did that, but I just was like, I want to go see the world. So I've literally moved across a state by myself, didn't know nobody. And my mom and my family tried to bribe me to stay in Arizona. They were like, we'll get you a car, we'll get you an apartment, go to school at ASU, you'll be here. And all of that, I said no, which they were surprised about, but because I wanted to come out and see the world and do it on my own. But I will say, I would not have been able to do it on my own had it not been for the Indian Center in downtown Los Angeles. A lot of my community members who are Thana'a live out in LA, and I happened to connect with them. My mom made it a priority at any gathering we went to here in California. If she found out they were from our tribe, she would drag me over and be like, this is my daughter. She will be living here in a few months. Get her number, talk to her. And actually, that's how I met my best friend. She was adopted out of the tribe 2 years before ICWA was passed. ICWA was the Indian Child Welfare Act, which really recommends that Native children who are being adopted first go through their tribe first, and that wasn't in place when she was adopted. So she was adopted out to a non-Native family in Northern California. Always knew she was different, always knew she was part of my tribe, but didn't really know. And that happened to be at a time when me, who grew up with nothing but my tribe, moved out to California, and we became really good friends that way because I was able to tell her what it was like or traditions or things that we do, and she was able to help me meet the community. And that type of relationship is what you see when we were talking about our Native communities coming together and creating that community. We also had two elder women who were from my tribe. They became my grandmas. They were two sisters who were probably in their late 80s, early 80s, who would travel by bus from LA to our tribe back and forth together. And they became my grandmas. And I created this we created this community, and we would do tribal language lessons. So I even was learning my language from one of our elders every Tuesday and Thursday night. It's something that when I was a student, I look forward to because I was able to stay connected to my community, but also learn my own language. And I also got a lot of really good leftovers after that. They made sure to keep me fed. I think it was my second year of college where my mom was like, how come you're not homesick? How come you're not coming home a lot? And then she stayed with me for a week and saw what that was of me going to visit with my community and learning language. And she said, oh, you have your own family out here. And I think that that's something that our tribal colleges and universities create for some of our students who may or may not feel connected. At least they're connected with each other, they're connected with the staff, they're connected as a community. And I think any area that wants to support a tribal college and university is going to benefit from that twofold. I didn't honestly expect to share all of that with you, but that's just an example of what these communities can do when you're supporting our students. I think one other funny thing I will share is one time, it was at a time in California, you know, when we go through those times when the gas is really high. I found it cheaper, yeah, I guess like now too. I found it a lot cheaper to ride the bus. And so it was I think $7 for me to get to work, and I just had to walk half a mile, so I, made it a little trip. One time I was on the bus, and I get on, and I look over, and it's the two elder ladies that I could see from my class, just sitting on public transit, talking to each other in our language, and they were like, oh, hey, we haven't seen you. Come sit by us. Do you want to come to us with our house? You can have dinner. And it's that type of community that you don't see everywhere, and especially in a big city like Los Angeles. So a lot of our students do need that support. They need that help. And I'm very thankful to work for the Biden-Harris administration because this is an administration that truly believes in education. Dr. Joe Biden is still teaching as a professor. If that's not showing you the dedication that this administration has towards education, the Secretary of Education is a former educator himself. He always encourages us to go out into the community, go out into schools. I remember one interaction that we had. We went out on a tribal visit in North Dakota, and it was a lot of youth that were in a summer program, so their parents were at work. And it was a lot of little students. They were really excited, trying to talk, and just wanted to show what they know. And they were learning about a good food to eat, bad food to eat. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the topic of candy and chocolate came up. And one student, they were talking about that's a sweet, don't eat it as much. And one student raised his hand and he said, my cousin ate too much chocolate, so he has really weird teeth. And I don't know why he has that. Why is that? And then we got into a discussion about brushing your teeth. But right before that student said that comment, the secretary was just about to give those students a big chocolate coin that he likes to give out. And so after the student said that, he pushed it back to the staff, maybe not right now. But that's just a testament to who he is and how he likes to interact with students. He is an educator at his core, but he also is very supportive of our tribal colleges and universities. Whenever we have these discussions when we're talking about investing into communities, not only are we talking about HBCUs, but we're talking about TCUs as well. And that is something that the president had put in his budget for this year. I had not had a chance to look at the actual bill that was passed last night to see if that funding was there, but there is funding in there that specifically is for TCUs to allow for their students to attend a four-year college tuition free. And that is something that the president has always said. He always says, if you want to show me your priorities, show me your budget, because I will see what you're really investing in. And when we're investing in our education and our educators, we're also investing in our community. So just wanted to kind of lay that out for you about how important it is to be part of this community, how much we need community and how much we need each other. But also making sure that we're creating space to learn more. My grandma and my grandpa always told us that even though you're not officially in school, you should always be learning. So every day when I was little, they would ask us at the end of the day, what did you learn today? And sometimes it would be on the weekends that they would ask us that as well. So we had to learn that our learning doesn't come from going to school. Our learning comes from our everyday interactions. So I also want you all to keep that in mind today as we go through our breakthroughs and our discussions with each other. What are you going to learn today from our students and our teachers, or what are you going to learn today about tribal colleges and universities? So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miguel. And let's give her another round of applause. Do people have to use the restroom? So, our next two, we're going to do two more, and then we're going to take a break, and then we'll be finishing this up before we go into breakout rooms. But I just want to say, Ms. Miguel, you came all the way to LA from TO. I got to share a Stanley story. I had just gotten married, somebody I met at DQ. We were leaving, we were running off to Albuquerque, and we ran out of gas in Tucson. That's how I ended up with your people. 3 years. But anyway. So, now I would like to invite up Sync Vice President Sean Reagan and Rebecca Pesco.
Achama, thank you. So I wanted to direct you to something that's in your packet. This Tribal College, University of California needs analysis, and just talk to you a little bit about that. As President Townsend said, there's over 1.4 million people in the state of California who identify either alone or in combination of their race as American Indian or Alaska Native. That's the largest overall population of any state in the country. So we have the largest overall American Indian population. 1/5 of all federally recognized tribes are in California, and there is not a single tribal college or university. And you go to somewhere like North Dakota, and they have 5 tribal colleges or universities. So the need is definitely here in California. We know that not just California Nations College is needed, not just Kumeyaay Community College is needed, but we could use 5, 6, 7, 8 tribal colleges here throughout the state. So what we put together is this needs analysis component. It has a lot of data and information in it. We want to direct you to that. And the data is there to kind of help support the need for, with data and numbers and all of that stuff, literature, the research that we've been doing, the need for a tribal college in California. Sorry, it's very early in the morning for me still. Okay, so if you have any questions about that, go ahead and ask us. We can give you more information about that. But I also want to, as we continue to do research and continue to develop this, we're doing a survey, and I want to invite Dr. Pesco to come up and talk about that. Thank you. Achama.
Good morning. The QR code is also on your agenda. If you look at the back of your agenda, that's the QR code as well. And you are going to receive an email with a link. If you use your phone, you know how surveys are. It's a little sluggish going through the phone. Every question's kind of detailed. You might prefer to use it on your computer where you have a nice little table and you can click right through. But I ask that you complete this survey. Everyone in this room, please complete the survey. It is geared toward all of you. Your first question kind of asks what group you represent, and then the rest of the questions will ask you questions specific to your representation. We want our high school students, we want our college partners, we want our tribal community, everyone, our local businesses to participate in this survey. We're trying to find a little bit more of where we want tribal colleges to go, what type of academic programs are needed, what type of workforce needs are we needing to fill a gap with. This is the entire state of California, so just because maybe you come from a different state, even outside of the state of California, fill it out and bring it back and share it with your community, please. The more data we get, the stronger we can meet those needs. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I know we need to all take a potty break, right? And just to stretch your legs. So if we could all meet back at 10:15, and then we're going to have our guests give you a brief lecture, and then we'll get into the breakout sessions, and then lunch. Yay! And then we'll be back. So if you can be back in here at 10:15, take your potty break, stretch your legs, get something to drink, and then come back. Thank you.
I forgot my coffee.
score? Let me come down.
Penyamat. Kiyap na. Kiyap na. Kiyap na. Miyepa. That was your Kumeyaay language lesson for this morning. Ah. Gentlemen, you're standing on the wall. Kind of reminds me of a prom. That's a- All right. We're ready? So now, I would like to invite Dr. Sandy, I don't want to brutalize your name, Kewanhaptewa Dixon and Pamela James, the dynamic duo. Please come up. And forgive me. And Sheila, you just give me the glare. All right.
Hanani washte, Haninat paso, Helato chukma. I just said hello, good morning in my 3 tribal languages. I'm Chickasaw, Santee Sioux, Dakota, and Menominee. I'm a relocation baby, AKA urban Indian. My parents met in the 1950s here in Los Angeles by the way of the Bureau Indian Relocation Act. My mother came out here on the Greyhound bus when she was 18 years old from a little town called Ada, Oklahoma. After she graduated from Chilocco boarding school, she decided, I want to come to Los Angeles with her sister. 1950, my father graduated from Haskell boarding school, which is now called Haskell Indian Nations University. He enlisted in the Navy, was stationed in Long Beach, California, and they met downtown Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Indian Center, which the center put Native families in apartments, found them jobs. So Dr. Stan said, can you speak your languages? And I said, which one? I said, I can say hello, I can say thank you, wawainen, wapila, chukma. In my languages, I can say Katapanan in Menominee means peace, harmony, and love to everyone. So today we're going to talk about that ethnic identity, Native American identity, and how it's so very powerful and what we need to be aware of what's happening with our Native students and our data. And here's the expert, Dr. Dixon from Cal Poly Pomona.
Thanks, Pam. It's so good to see you again today. Those of you that were here last night and the new faces, so welcome so much. Again, thank you so much for welcoming us to the land of the people here, and we are guests on their lands. So thank you, and to President Tomas and President Stan and also President, I just call them Celeste. I know them by their first names. New Sandy Konaptewa Dixon, new Hopitu. New Mungabi, new So'o. My name is Sandy Konaptewa Dixon. I am from the Hopi Nation. I'm from the village of Monkopi, and I am Sun Clan. I'm also a So'o grandmother, and that out of everything is the most important thing. We are super excited to be here today, and so we are going to ask you to do a little work right now. So what we want you to do is we want you to get your phones out. Get your phones out and we're going to have you snap on the QR code. So if you have the QR passes on your phone, go ahead and get those ready. Okay, Do you have the QR code? Is it there? Oh, it's way up in the, jeez. It's a tiny one. Way up in that, your right-hand corner. If you can snap on it. Can you guys snap on it? Awesome. You guys are good at it. Molly, you got it down? Yeah.
And they said Indian people would never be techies.
Okay, so our topic today, and we are going to continue it as we continue on with the plenary sessions, or the rest of the breakout sessions. What we're going to do is we're going to ask you these questions, and then we're going to discuss the results of all of these. So we're going to go ahead and start with number 1, and my partner in crime, Pam, is going to go ahead and read the first one. And I want you to be really honest, and we made them simple. It's either yes or no, all right? So let's go ahead with the very first question. Can you see it, Pam?
Yeah. Okay. Do you know the percentage of Native American, American Indian, Alaskan Native attending your school or institution? Back in the 60s, when my parents came, we just said, Indian. Are you Indian? And they were so happy to see another Indian downtown LA. When my mother moved here in the 50s, City Hall was the tallest building. Everybody know Tommy Burgers? Corner of Beverly and Rampart? That was here. And that's where all the skins would hang out back in the day. Next question. Is there a difference between Indigenous identity, Native American, American Indian, and Alaskan Native identity? Question number 3. Were you aware that NA, AI, AL students in tribal nations in general have been referred to as the invisible people? Question number 4. If a student identifies with more than one ethnic racial background when applying to a college or university, do you fully understand how the student is counted on the record census? Question number 5. Finally, do you know how many NA, AI, AN faculty and staff are employed by your institution or the closest college or university?
All right. Thank you for doing this. We're so excited to talk about these when we begin our next session. Pam and I are going to do the next session in this room and go over that. What we'd like to do is also go into these in depth and have some great discussions because we're going to continue. Can you hear me now? Awesome. I also want to just give a little briefing here and let you know we're ending our storytelling time in many of our native nations, and I can say it's kind of continuing just because of the weather, that we're staying inside a little bit more. There was a little girl, and she went to kindergarten, and she was really excited to go. She hadn't been to school yet, and she heard about the schools, and she was going to attend a public school down the street that she could walk to, and it was new to her. On her way to school, she was excited. She ran fast. She got to wear her new dress, and that dress was one that came from Sears catalog when you used to buy dresses like 6 at one time. You never knew what they looked at. Some of you nodding your head, you know about that, way back. And she chose her favorite one. She went in the classroom, and automatically the teacher had a desk for her, and then also had a desk for her neighbor next door. And as she looked around, she was put in the back of the classroom. And the other boy, who was half Japanese, was put in the back of the classroom. And as she looked around the classroom, everybody else in there was light, or they were white. And as the day progressed, the teacher began to teach them about their new colors. They looked in their desk, and there was those brand new Crayola crayons. You remember those big ones? Well, those big crayons. And she pulled out one crayon, and she said, "Class." And her name was Miss Taylor. And Miss Taylor said, "Class, what color is this?" She held up a crayon, and it was blue. And she said, "What class is this?" And at that time, the students had to stand up by their desk. And they had to go ahead and say, "Miss Taylor, I know." And she said, "Yes." And she said, "That crayon, that crayon is blue." And Miss Taylor said, "What other things in this room are blue?" And she said, "That dress over there that girl had," she didn't say it, that's the native way of saying it. The dress over there is blue that Sally is wearing." She goes, "Yes, that is a blue dress." Miss Taylor goes ahead and gets the next crayon out. And as she lifts it up, she said, "What color is this?" And they all look at it, and it is orange. And she says, "What color is this?" "Orange, Miss Taylor." And Miss Taylor says, "What else in the classroom is orange?" And the little boy stands up and looks around, and he says, "That book over there, the book over there is orange." She says, "Yes, it is." Then she picks up the third crayon and holds it up in the classroom. And she said, "What color is this?" And they go, "That color is brown." She said, "Yes, what else in the classroom is brown?" And another little girl stood up by her desk, and she stood up. And she went ahead and she looked, and she pointed at this one student. It's sitting in the back of the classroom. And she said, "That color is brown. That color is brown like Sandra. She is brown like dirt." And Miss Taylor said, "Yes, Sandra is brown like dirt." Later that day, well, the class began to laugh. And Sandra did not know whether she should laugh or she should cry. And so she went home. And at that time, you had lock keys, and the children would let themselves in. And Sandra went into the bathroom and filled up the tub all the way up, as full and as hot as it could be. And she put her body in there and soaked, and was the only thing that you could see was her nose, her eyes, and her mouth. And when her mother came in and asked for her, "Sandra, where are you? Where are you?" And she went ahead and found her in the bathroom and in the tub. She says, "What are you doing? It's in the afternoon." And she went ahead and said, "I need to get rid of the dirt." And she goes, "Oh, did you get dirty today?" She goes, "No, this dirt, this dirt, and this dirt, and this dirt, and this dirt." And she looked at her, and she said, "You need to get out of that tub and she reached down and pulled the plug in the tub. And she grabbed a towel and she said, "Come with me." And she dried her off. And when she was drying her off, she said, "You have the most beautiful skin. Do not ever let anybody say anything bad about your skin." And that was the beginning of the education for this little girl. The little boy that was next door, as they continued in that day in that classroom, as the class went on, they went ahead, and it was lunchtime or snack time. And at that time, you got a little thing of milk, a little carton of milk, and a cookie. And when it got back to the students in the back, Sandra and Brian, they got the crumbs and the bent cartons of milk. And the little boy had to go to the bathroom. He said, "Miss Taylor, I need to go to the bathroom." He kept raising her hand, and she never paid attention. He couldn't hold it anymore, and he had an accident, and he let go there. And of course, that caused more laughing. For the rest of the year, those two children stayed in the back of their classroom. I remember that story as if it happened yesterday, because that was me and my next door neighbor. Thanks, ma'am. But let me tell you, that began my understanding of education. That began my understanding of what the heck. And as I continued going through school, I said, I need to do something. Because I know if it's happening to me, it's happening to others. as I continued and worked, I worked at LA Unified School District, I worked at different places, and I worked in LA, and there was a principal from Sherman Indian High School came to a conference I was presenting, and he came in and he said, you know what, are you interested in teaching at Sherman Indian High School? And I said, no, I'm happy where I'm at, I like where I'm at. He asked me once to come up there and invite me. I said, no, thank you, I'm good where I'm at. He invited me a second time. I said, no, thank you, I'm fine where I'm at. Third time, he said, I'm going to invite you one more time, and I want you to come up. This is the last time I will ask you. And so I went ahead and I went up there. And this time, instead of me, the administrators and the other principals, he had the students take me around the campus. And I walked around the campus, and later that day, I signed and quit my job, and I ended up working at Sherman for 13 years. I was super excited. I went to go call my mom and tell my mom, and it's home. She lives on the res in Montcopy. And I said, Mom, I'm going to be working over here at Sherman Indian High School. I thought she would be happy because I'm working for my own people. I'm making changes. And do you know what my mom said? She said, oh, you're working for those people. So I had to learn. And I knew about the BIA and the histories of the schools and the education that our people were not getting and the bad atrocities that were happening at those schools. But I also learned along the way that if you want to help change an institution, and this is why you all are here, you have to get into it. You have to get it and do it. And so I was there at Sherman for 13 years. I went to the boarding school. I was a principal in another school and continued on. What we're going to be sharing with you today is the importance of learning and knowing that our Native students have been erased. Just like when we were young. They wanted to get rid of us. They wanted us to look in the white man's image. They wanted us to do all these different things. And it went on within education, or the miseducation, or the non-education of Native youth. And as we continue today, you are here to look and see, why are these tribal colleges? Why is SINC? Why is Kumeyaay? Why do these colleges exist? I love the students that I've met and know them, and I see them, and they are wonderful, and their growth, and they have this feeling of home. But when they leave that school, and they go on to the next school, and the next school, and continue on and get their doctors, Pam and I always say, you know what, you guys need to keep doing that, young people. You need to get those educations and keep going, and you know why? Who's going to take my place? Who's going to take Pam's place? Who's going to become the next president of these campuses? But our students have to feel that they are welcome at the universities and colleges and the institutions, at the CSUs, at the USCs, at the private schools. They have to feel that they are welcome and know. So they have to see this. They have to see this. They have to know that we are okay, that we are good in our skin color, that we are good about being, that we belong, that I am Sioux, that I am Chickasaw, that I am Hopi, that I am Kawia, that we are all these things. It took me a long time at my university to feel comfortable. I couldn't believe this, and I didn't know that it was okay for me to use my traditional name. So it was always Sandy Dixon, Dr. Dixon, blah, 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 Dr. Dixon. And it took about 8 or 9 years ago where I finally had to say, wait, I'm erasing myself. So now I am Dr. Kewanaptewa Dixon. Oh. But you see the effects that has had. And I'm a grown A woman. I don't swear. Bless me. So, Pam has amazing stories that we're going to share along the way. We want you to be there. And we want to talk about these things of how can we go ahead and address the erasures. So thank you very much. We're getting ready to break for our sessions. Our session will be here. There are 5 sessions in here in the building. Look around and find the ones that calls your name. Go to the one that you know that you need to be at today. All right? Thank you so much. Escalate.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies, your words really touched my heart. Thank you for sharing this. And before we go into our breakout sessions, a public service announcement. We have California Indian Nations College listed. We have Kumeyaay Community College up here. We have one more tribal college who is here right now, DQ University. And the chairman of the board of trustees of DQ, Joseph Salk, is sitting in the back. You please acknowledge him. And this is one of the schools that we want to bring back. So, thank you very much. Now, Ben Yabet Raja Owak. You put one puja Owak Moyao. It's time for you to go into your breakout sessions. I didn't know how to say take a break, so I said break it. All right? That's the best I could do, Patty. All right. All right, let's go to our breakout sessions.
Where do I point to? Oh, okay.
You don't point it, you just click it.
It's modern,
It's
okay.
already feeding it through the
Okay.
system. See, all this is all.
Welcome, everybody. We are about to begin. For those of you, I thought we could dance a little bit before we started. Okay, we are going to go ahead, and if you feel comfortable enough, we would love to have you come a little bit closer. If this was our classroom, you would be sitting in a circle. We're not able to do that. This is very Eurocentric, colonized way of sitting. It is not the traditional way, but if you would like to come up closer, we'll do that. And I'm going to sit down a little bit, and Pam and I are going to go over these. But we're going to go ahead and start with a story from Pam, and then we're going to go ahead and go through. So please, be comfortable here, though. Thank you.
Hello. So I shared earlier how my father was in the military. He was Navy, did his 4 years. He was at the end of the Korean War. So his ships went over to Korea to clean up what the USA had done to Korea. Well, the three things that I grew up with, he knew what it was like to walk from Kashina in Wisconsin, the Menominee Reservation, to the nearby town Shawano, which is like 10 miles away. He'd hitchhiked, got spat on, called dirty Indian, drunken Indian, go home, go back to where you came from. So he taught me three things. He said, never be afraid to raise your hand in class. Never be afraid to speak up. You have a right to be first in line. And don't let anybody tell you any different. Today would have been my father's 87th birthday. So, Dad, I spoke up. I raised my hand. I pushed my way to be in the front of the line. And now I get to pay it back to all my beautiful Indian people. And his spirit is with me right this very minute. All of the ancestors are here in this room this very minute. They are here to support you, to encourage you, to teach us how to have constructive words, to be kind to one another, to love one another, and to be good relatives to each other. They are here in this room today. They are here at this summit today to take care of us. And I know my dad, he was a welder. He died from mesothelioma, called asbestos, from asbestos. He took welding at Haskell Indian boarding school because they taught the trades to natives back in the day, not higher ed. So he left Haskell Indian School as a welder, enlisted in the Navy and was a welder. When the boat went in dry docks, he welded on the boats. When he left the Navy, he became a welder. He supported us, strong work ethic. I had parents that both worked. My mother retired out of Rockwell. I went to college paying every single unit on my own because I never could get financial aid because both my parents worked. So when, as a community college counselor now, students say, remember when you're on financial aid? No, I do not. I didn't get that opportunity. I was a college athlete. So I worked. This was my day for 3 years. Wake up, go to class, go to practice, take a shower at the gym, and go to work so I can pay for my education. Because I knew at the end of the day, like my father, my parents told me, there's two things that no one can ever, ever take away from you. That's your education. And back in the day, we said, like I said, we were called Indian. My mother and father would always say, being Indian. You can never have those be taken away unless you allow it. But we know as Indian people, we won't allow that to happen. So that's my story to empower you all with good energy today. Why, Wayne?
just in case you forgot who we were. All right, so we're going to look at each of these questions here. And if any of you can pull it up, I don't know if they'll be able to pull it back in the back. What were the percentages? What came out of this? I found it very interesting, and it's great because I did something similar to this about 5 or 6 years. I did something to this about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was drastically different. And so I would say that we're becoming more educated. We're learning about the ways. So this first question, oh, not this one. Actually, go ahead and keep it up, and then we'll go back to the PowerPoint. What I wanted to show with this is I was at a conference last month, early childhood studies and early childhood with the state. And in that, they presented a success rate of students in the California universities here. And when they did it, they went ahead and they were super excited to show, this is our results, this is all the things that we found, and there's about 3 or 4 different slides of findings. But this one, as always strikes me. What do you not see here? Can you read what it says there? That it's looking at the enrollment. Right. Yes. And guess what? In almost all studies, in almost all research, historically, we fall under we are insignificant. And that is a research word. And they're trying to get people to step away from that. But still, we are considered invisible. And when we look at it as being insignificant in research, this was a study done on the CSUs last year in 2023, and they are still leaving us out. Okay, that adds. And so when teachers, people in different departments, in colleges and universities, and this is national statistics and information, when they go and look at this, they're not going to think about us. In this arena, we're talking about it, because it is reaching out and talking to all of you about Indian education. But once you step away from this arena, the idea of us being in the universities and colleges is very limited, because we corrected somebody yesterday. They were talking about we're still below, that we're at the 1% level. And I immediately said less than 1%. And a lot of you are nodding your head, and you know that we are still below that. And you know the numbers. They've told you today about the numbers. Okay, so thank you for showing that one. If you go back to the PowerPoint slide. So this is the second, is this the second question or the first one? Was this the first one? This is the second one? It's one. All right. So what was the percentages on this one? Can you say it out loud again? I know that there's a gentleman that's supposed to pull it up. He's going to send it to me. Do we have it? Do you have access? Okay, I'll go ahead and see. But when we look at the percentages, we see that there was actually more people that said that they did know the percentages of Native American Indian, and Native American, Alaska Native students attending your school and institution. All right. 5 years ago, 80% of the people in the room did not know. Okay? And so you are seeking and you are learning and you are wanting to know. That says a lot, and it's better improvement, but it's still not 100%. And this is what we need to do, is make the visibility very clear. All right, the second question, Pam, do you want to go ahead and address that one? This is the second question. Next slide.
The next slide, please. Do you have the percentages of that? So what happened to the answers? Do you know the difference? So this country has moved into the word indigenous. So that means everybody and anybody. So what's happening with our data is when Native American students check off 2 ethnicities, it goes to the other ethnicity, Hispanic, African American, and the data is not captured. So like again, it's like we're not even in higher ed. So I come from the California Community College system, and it always has been an issue for me for the past 27 years as being a counselor. Why do not Native American students have intentional services like the Hispanic serving institutions, like our Emoja students? This doesn't just happen to Native American students. This also happens to our Asian Pacific Islanders. So therefore, their numbers are low and slowly climbing to also have intentional services. I always make a joke with my Hispanic colleagues. You can thank a Native for your dollars. My African American colleagues, you can thank a Native for your Emoja counselor. So this year, our chancellor's office, the California Community Colleges has 116 community colleges in this state. The closest one to the Coyote Camp is San Bernardino Valley College. Our chancellor's office gave $600,000 to 20 campuses this year. And one of the recipients, college, is here today. Can you stand up, please? He is from Mount San Jacinto Community College. The college is located next to our Liseño people, the Saboba Reservation. So they were able to have great data to show student success numbers for Native students. And so now they're responsible for establishing Native American student success programs. So Indian Country is watching for these 20 campuses to be successful because it's a pilot program. Let me say that again. It's a pilot program. They didn't do a pilot program for our HSI schools. They didn't do a pilot program for Emoja programs. But they put Native American Student Success Program as a pilot. So if those campuses are successful, therefore all the rest of the 96 community colleges can get funding. My campus can get funding. When I do my data, when I pull my data for my students, I do 2 researches. 1, for Native students only. 2, Native students and other, because therefore my numbers are more robust. But I'm one and only person that has to reach out to my students. And the way I use that reach out is every year I have my Native American dancers. And Assembly James Ramos' nephews came and sang bird songs for us, because that is how I can get students to say, look, here I am, and I make our presentations go live Zoom on my campus. We have, on my campus, we have on Facebook, it's called VVC Chat, and I flood that VVC Chat. Students come see me, and you know what I receive on my campus? Attaboy, Pam, thank you for reaching out. So, when I talk about those 3 lessons that my father taught me, speak up, raise your hand, you push hard to be in front of that line. In my campus in Victorville, we become a very diverse community since 1997, but we have a lot of snow on our mountain. Do you know what that means? Yeah, my administration doesn't reflect the high desert community. Therefore, Native students aren't looked after, okay? So it's always a constant battle for those of us that are in higher ed to bring those numbers, to help our students be identified, because I know what it's like to walk alone on a Cal State campus. I graduated from Cal State Fullerton in Human Services and Counseling. I didn't see any other natives. I rarely even saw any brown skins on Cal State Fullerton back in the 80s. And then when I came here, I worked for this campus. I worked for this campus for 7 years. I worked in disabled student services because Sherman Indian High School gave me that opportunity. I was a teacher's aide in special ed, so I was able to transfer those skills here. While I worked here, I was able to get my master's in education counseling. 2 years after working in disabled student services, I began to work in admissions and records in outreach. And guess what school I got to reach out to? Sherman Indian High School. That was my baby. And Carlene Bernacci, she's the counselor at Sherman right now. She also worked for UC Riverside in outreach, and she and I always piggybacked on Indian education. We would drive up to Bishop when they had their Native College Day and their College Awareness Day. We would piggyback. I said, you know what? I got the room. My campus is paying for this. She goes, my school's paying for the mileage. I'm going to use her state car. We had to team up that way. So whatever it was to collaborate, to unite, to make it happen for our Native students. And we're not competing against each other. We have SYNC, the California Community College, UC, Cal State. Pick one, students. We don't care where you go, just go. Because we will be there waiting for you with open arms.
This question is controversial, as it should be. We all have different opinions. And so I'm going to make some mics available here because we would like to hear your ideas on this. I will go ahead and share. There's many scholars right now that are addressing this question, and it's really looking at it in a way. And why is it important that this is a discussion? Well, because when we look at it, Indigenous identity and Native American, American Indian, Alaska Native identity. First and foremost, if you do not know this, that we have never claimed or said, or is a part of our ways, the term Indigenous. It is not us. Academia and federal governments and grants have taken this term to be like an inclusive overall. That in itself causes problems because of how universities will use the term Indigenous to get funding for, and sometimes in good ways or not. It's very controversial. And give you an example of there's one community college that had an enrollment of less than 100 Native American students. All of a sudden, 3 years later, they had over 1,500 Native American students. What did they do? They went ahead and counted everybody that identified. And by the way, Indigenous is not one of the terms that is on the census record of how you can identify it. But they went ahead and used that term. And when doing that, they received millions and millions and millions of dollars. Okay, but did it service the Native American, American Indian, Alaska Native students? Some, but not all. And so we have to look at these terms and the way that they are used. Programs use the term Indigenous because they want it to be inclusive and not exclusive, want it to be that way. However, we know that Native American student centers, the reason they were created in universities and colleges were to serve North American tribal groups, all the tribes in the United States. And in looking at that, it was because we know that they were not being serviced. We have those problems all the time, even today. We keep bringing up Sherman. How many of you know of Sherman Indian High School? Raise your hand. How many have been to Sherman Indian High School? Very good, yes. And Gayleen works at Sherman Indian High School. Yes, thank you. Oh, yes, yes. What we're excited about is a success, and there's a lot of things that have changed. However, we still have battles, and one of those is a discussion right now. The U.S. government, FDA, funds for the mills. And as those of you in education know that at certain times they do a census of the number of students at your university, college, public schools, wherever, to take a count. They also do that with the boarding schools. And at that particular week, they do everything they can to count the students that are in school. Okay. All right. And so when doing that, what they end up doing is they count the students. The biggest problem going on, not the biggest, but one of the biggest problems at Sherman right now is they receive funding for FDA for 5 days. Sherman is a boarding school. They are there 7 days. The student, they do not have money and funding to feed them on the weekends, on Saturday and Sunday. That is happening today. The children there cannot go, they get only 2 meals on the weekend. Now, how many of you only have 2 meals a day? Some of you, okay? But for growing young children, coming into adulthood, you know, they need to be nourished. And so they can only, and they cannot go back for seconds, okay? And so we see these issues going on in Indian country. And we're not going to get through all of these. I would like to have one person respond here to this question and give us your opinion. There is no right or wrong here, but it's something that we do need to discuss. And how do we go ahead and look at these? Yes, would you please come up and take the mic?
Here at this university. But something that happened not this past November, but the previous November during Native American Heritage Month, right? Well, someone here at the university decided to change the name and change it to Indigenous and Native American Heritage Month. And I have to tell you that I personally am very bothered by that because I feel negated. Because if you look it up, it is not called Indigenous and Native Heritage Month. It is called, you know, look at how this came to be. I feel negated by that. And that particular month, they featured a person from Mexico as the speaker for this university for that month to speak before everyone when this person is not Native American, and it just felt really wrong to me. And I just think that the people at the university need to understand the difference between Indigenous and Native American. That's my feeling about that.
We all don't see things the same way. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have about 30 seconds left. So Pam and I also have the next plenary session in here. So you may go to the other ones too, but if you'd like to continue this discussion, we'd love to hear your voices on the rest of the questions. The other point that needs to be made very clear, that there is a difference between American Indian, Native American studies and Indigenous studies. All right? A big difference. And yet our colleges and universities and people that hire do not see that. So when you look at job searches and all of those things, it's very important that we recognize that. Is it not, do we not want to include? No. But we want to also let people know that this is a topic of conversation among scholars. All right, we are going to go ahead and end. Please find your way to some other fascinating workshops, but we're also going to continue here with the next 3 questions. Thank you.
And your website is what? Who sent you out here? Yeah, I'm like, I want to, can you do this by yourself? I'm going to go.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started on our second one. And right after this will be lunch. Excuse me? Sir? I'm going to go ahead and, if you don't mind, just ask you, Bernard, to go ahead and also share that we can continue that conversation.
Oh, okay.
All right, for those of you that are joining us, we are going through the questions that we asked you at the beginning, and we're having some discussions in these areas. And I'm really grateful for those of you that have shared, and we're going to begin passing around the mic because Pam and I don't want to take this whole thing, but we want to hear your voices and hear your thoughts on this. A good friend to Sync and a family member of the Sync because related to Teresa, he also came up with some comments that he wanted to share on this question. Is there a difference between Indigenous identity and Native American, American Indian, and Alaskan Native? One thing that we wanted to share with you as well is a lot of times there's even a discussion between using the terms Native American or American Indian. Okay, those are other terms. But what we see in other places such as Canada, and Bernard is going to talk about that, they use the term First Nations, and they do not use the term Indigenous at all. And so as we start looking at these, terminology and defining these is a conversation that we need to continue having. We will be presenting at the NIEA, National Indian Education Association, on this. And there's some scholars out there that have some really good viewpoints on this. So I'd like to go ahead and invite Bernard Thomas from the Lummi. Is it Lummi? He's going to come up, and he shared some really thoughtful ideas that I thought he could, that we could end with on this question here.
Good morning. Just thank you for being here. Just chatting with them a little bit about some of the work we've done in Washington State around this topic of having meaningful consultations. We have every year a Centennial Accord, which started in 1989 with the governor. And so every year, the cabinet members of the governor sits in consultation with all of the tribal leadership around Washington State. And my point to them really is about blood quantum just in general, which was not from our traditional way of welcoming people into our family. But it kind of has led to an ambiguous nomenclature around how shall we call ourselves? And so it's still a very sensitive topic that is regarded in a guarded way in each of the different tribes. But the point is that we need to have formal public conversation around how we identify ourselves so that we can elicit a system that is sensitive as well as accurate around the idea of who we are and how many we are. Do our family members need clothing or shelter or better improved access to education and completion of education and culturally responsive education? And so, you know, that's what I want to mention, that, you know, you can be 4/4 blood quantum in your tribe, but know very little if anything, about your cultural heritage, your history, tribal sovereignty, and all of the different things that comprise those things that, you know, need to be. You know, I think the traditional ways would include a period of multiple generations of education of a person, and each of us then would branch off into our own area of interests and abilities, in such a way that, you know, the diversity of the village would be enhanced by different people having different levels and different kinds of expertise for the survival of the family, for survival of the village, for, you know, we're villagers. We used to live in long houses, and, you know, and living in that way, we would educate our young kids in such a way that the younger kids would look up to the older kids or elders in the house and say, I want to be like them. And, you know, but if you're an ICWA kid, you've been raised in foster care for the entirety of your life as a minor child, and then come back to the reservation, you start to experience the same thing that my mother and grandparents did when they came back from the boarding school, when they were ridiculed, even though they were 4/4 Lummi Indian, but they were ridiculed for not knowing our Shalangan, which sounds like a really cool, you know, Lummi word. Shalangan means our way of life. And so when you came back from the boarding school, you were ridiculed for not knowing our Chilangan, you know, our way of life. And so that persists among ourselves, the infection of doubt as to our identities among ourselves, to each other. And so, you know, this process of having been acculturated and then coming back and being with each other makes us each suspicious of each other. You know, who are you? Do you know who you are? You know, are you Indian? Are you Indian enough? And, you know, but that, you know, I think speaks to this whole issue of having meaningful consultation and making the system accountable to each of us as our formal governmental ties to the federal government to fulfill its trust obligation for once and for all. And then between each other, I think we need to have that ongoing conversation. And if we are unhappy with blood quantum, which also is a very sensitive topic, you know, then we need to be able to maybe impose upon the tribal colleges and universities a system by which we have a curriculum designed to educate our youth and our people of any age. You know, what is our culture? You know, what is our language? You know, what is our history, which goes back before 1492? And, you know, I think the stories, especially the traditional stories, in our language, they have to be told from the beginning to the end with no breaks in the middle. You can't parse out these stories. But these stories contain a lot of scientific taxonomy and, you know, help inform the listener to be prepared for the future. You know, that's kind of the underlying philosophy within our languages. And so the idea then being that we, not being able to foster our identity. Identity is just an English word that means ideas that we get about ourselves, from ourselves and from others over time. And the idea that we have about ourselves is kind of incomplete or inaccurate because we've been told a lot of things by spaghetti Western movies, and ideas, you know, that come from Hollywood or, you know, from the mainstream, but not from each other, not the holistic, comprehensive, fantastic view that come from our language, which enriches not just our ability to communicate, but enriches our very soul, connecting us both to our ancestors as well as to the children yet unborn, and speak to us in a manner in which each of us then is able to enjoy a life of riches and wealth of knowing our family. And, you know, when I was greeted by my elders, when I walked into the room, they treated me like a rock star just because you are family. And, you know, that was like gold to them. And I never quite understood that. But now, having learned the language and more about the ways, I can really understand and, you know, welcome the opportunity to share that with you today, that we just need to have these ongoing understandings of how did we get our idea about our identity? where did that come from? And is there a more comprehensive, accurate, wholesome, better way for us to understand our identity that is more welcoming and more inclusive of any of the indigenous people, whether they were put here through the Indian Relocation Vocational Education Act of the 1950s that were summarily dismissed when the program suddenly ended without warning, leaving those people wherever they were at. And a lot of them were moved to California. And so you have a lot of people that are indigenous, but not necessarily tied to their own tribe. They're not necessarily enrolled in their tribe. They're just here and starting to discover, hey, you know what, I think I'm Indian of some kind. And so the community college and the tribal colleges and universities have an opportunity to dismiss these things that we've been told about our identity from others that were completely wrong. But it's our obligation, our duty really, to have this conversation with each other, try to get it right and to use these opportunities to begin to heal over those suspicions that we've had about ourselves, that kind of false sense of, I might not be good enough. People have this cool idea about me, but I'm not sure I trust that. And, and I just think that having this conversation is encouraging, is needed, it can heal. It can also hurt in the process, I think, a little bit unintentionally or intentionally, just because we have these very strong impressions about things that we've been told that we grew up with that seem like that's the way it needs to be, but it doesn't. But that's part of the process of having higher education institutions that should not be accredited by an ongoing, existing Western European accrediting entity, but by ourselves. My old teacher, Vine Deloria Jr., used to say, if we are sovereign, then we need to begin to act sovereign, meaning that we need to be self-determining. And that part of our identity needs to then be shared by each other, encouraged by each other, and then taught to our children in such a way that that multiple generation thing can start to happen in a more holistic, comprehensive way that is inclusive, because we are each rock stars to each other. We're family. Hey, I love you guys. Thank you.
The next question that we have up here. Were you aware that the Native American, Indian, Alaska Native students and tribal nations in general have been referred to as the invisible people? And when we look at the results of that, a good percentage, I think it was over 80% of you, did know that. Has it ended? No, it continues. It continues in the spaces of our educational systems. Does it fall under institutional racism? Yes? No? Some of you are nodding your head yes. Do we have institutional racism still at our campuses and universities? Absolutely, and I could give the mic over to Dr. Fenelon. He could talk all day about that. Because we do have these issues. I'd like to have one person, give you about 2 minutes, if you would like to also make a comment on this question.
They're asking me to sing. Nobody wants to hear me sing. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Lucia Preciado. Lovely to be here. Thank you so much for opening this topic. It's very necessary. Our work is with Native American high school and middle school students. Specifically, I work with youth in Los Angeles County. I work as college advisor and also project director for a grant. And I can't tell you how many times I have to go chasing the high school counselors to identify the Native American student population in their high schools and middle schools because they don't know. And that translates into college readiness, accessibility to higher education. Thank you for also bringing that up. Because a lot of these students, they'll graduate with the state requirements, but they are not A through G graduating UCCSU eligible. So this question about invisibility, it starts middle school, high school, and it continues into higher education. So I can't stress enough, that this is certainly a question that is long-term work for us. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing this question in the survey, because it's very significant. Thank you.
One of the things that we do know that happens is when students, again, there's that count time in the public schools, and what they end up doing is sometimes the parents do not fill out this question, or the students do not fill out the racial ethnic identity question on there, and it's left blank, or they haven't even filled out the emergency card. What happens is the office secretary will then go ahead and fill out the card, and this happens in a lot of places, and they will go ahead and just look at the child to determine. And what do you think the majority of Native American students are identified as? Well, it depends on the enclave. It depends on the community of where they're from. Okay? If you look at me and I'm walking down the street, are you going to think I'm Native American? Some of you will, because you know how certain natives are. But I've been identified as Hispanic, Mexican, Filipino, and depending on how much I weigh, Samoan. Okay, yeah, I've been there. And so, again, we have to really educate, and those of you that, and it's just not, it's elementary, but it's also pre-K. We have to start at that pre-K level and encourage that, and in working with our early childhood studies, that we have to go ahead and start at that young of age to address these questions, all right? Let's go to the next question, please. I'll read this and then hand it to Pam. If a student identifies with more than one ethnic or racial background when applying to a college or university, do you fully understand how the student is counted on the record? On the record, I don't know why it says session, on the record, the census.
Well, I had just attended a Zoom workshop for the California community colleges, and they had talked and addressed this very issue about data collecting. And then they showed the Asian one. There were 13 identifiers that the Asian community could identify with. A Native American, that was it. I'm like, okay, so what's so hard about this? So in our systems, if, like I had shared before, if they check off 2 ethnicities, we are not captured in that data. So, and we all know as Native people, when it's time for census, what of all our tribal agencies and everyone tells us, do not check off 2 ethnicities. Claim if you're in the urban setting, only check Native that lives in the household. And that's because the Fed government funds all the the non-tribal agency, the urban Indian agencies, like in California, we have UAII, United American Indian Involvement, which back in the day, very historical, was called Los Angeles Center, Los Angeles Native American Center. So because of that data, that's how they get funded. There was, in Orange County, it was called the Southern California Indian Center. Totally lost funding and they closed down. So the tribes that are in Orange County, your Tongva, your Oshaman, and all the other urban Indians, there's no services for them in Orange County. And they used to run a gentleman by the name of Philip Hale. He was so inspirational to the youth. Every year he used his Johnson O'Malley funds to send Native students to UCLA because they would have a basketball conference together. The Native students at UCLA ran this conference. Students had to go to the conference before they could play ball. That was, if one of their team members missed it, the whole team got disqualified for the tournament. And I coached the girls. Another person would coach the guys. And Miss over here, Miss UCLA, they're getting ready to have it again pretty soon. But now that center does not exist. So there aren't any Native students that get to participate in that great event. That event brought students from Northern Cal, Nevada, Arizona. It became its legacy. Those students look forward to going to UCLA. UCLA has established a good foundation for these students. So when we talk about identity, we have to work extra hard when we're not captured in the data to still show that we are present here, we still exist. And our universities, are doing a great job. And I always share when I'm at a powwow dancing, and I was always sharing with Dr. Dixon, I said, powwow is a good outreach for our Native community because it tells the community that Native students exist on this campus. There are support services for you on this campus. You come to Poly, you come to UCLA, you come to San Bernardino, you belong. And what is the saying on this campus? Go here, go anywhere. So this piece right here is we always battle with this piece. And your Native recruiters, American Indian recruiters, they fight for that. They have to go to their researchers. This is the data we want. So we battle, institutionally wise, we battle our researchers. This is what I want pulled. I don't want to see, why are we counting these students in another ethnic group? It's so frustrating when you're working in higher ed to pull that data for our students. Because the bottom line at the end of the day, it's about student success and the numbers, because we know in the colonist world, it's about numbers equals dollars. And so they're like, and I had this said to me at my chancellor's office about 10 years ago. The California Community College came out with the student success factors. There were 6 of them. And she was presenting on my campus, and I said, in that survey, how many Native students were in that survey? She goes, oh, I don't know. I said, how is it that you don't know how many students were in that survey? You said you surveyed all California. And she said, I go, and is there funding coming for Native students? She was an African American. She goes, oh, there's not enough of those students to warrant the chancellor's funding. Those students, I had to leave that building because I felt my grandparents, my aunties, uncles, again, the door shut in their face. I had to leave because I don't know where I would have been today if I stayed in that room and had a conversation with her. But my tears are right here. I said, this is not happening. Really? In higher ed? This person who works at our chancellor's office made that comment? So again, always, always constantly battling. The other cultures who don't know how to meet with us. This year at the California Community Colleges, on our CC Apply, there's a pull-down menu where students can check off their tribes. The gentleman from the chancellor's office sent out an email, and it said, tribal removal from CC Apply. I'm all WTF. Do you know how insensitive the word removal is to our people? I flashed him an email. I sent it to Assembly James Ramos. And I said, why are you removing the tribes? You're not the Bureau of Indian Affairs. You don't know who the tribal members are. You don't know how to check federally and unfederally recognized tribes and descendancy with our unfederally recognized brothers and sisters. Why is a system doing this? And why does it all of a sudden become important for you to know the tribes? So, like we say in higher ed, we have to battle. We have to battle for this right here to be counted. Because we're here and we are never, never going away. One of the things When I go back to Wisconsin, to the Menominee Reservation, my grandpa, Steve Ascanet, he always took me out to where the old people sweat, and we'd lay out my jingle dresses, and he'd pray over me, burn the sweet grass, the cedar, smudge my dresses. And he says, "Granddaughter, I pray for you because you walk in two worlds." And you know what, I was always wondering, what did that mean? Because as growing up, my parents always connected me to the Native community: softball, basketball, church, education, Title IV. And I'm like, what does he mean? And I go, what does that mean, Grandpa? And he says, because you got to walk in the white world when you leave the reservation. You have to go back to your homelands where your mom and dad raised you. And at the age of 25, I went, oh my God. So that's what our students are doing, having to learn to code switch. We can't say A in the classroom. We can't do this. Over there, over there. We're told pointing is rude, but what do the teachers and everybody point? They point. That's not how we were raised. So our students have to code switch. Our students, we want them to feel like they belong. No touching the hair. I had a friend, her son, his warrior hair is down to here. He was in the classroom. An Asian teacher went up, touched his hair and said, "You need to cut this." This just happened 2 months ago. Fortunately, he has parents that are very assertive. So they got their Title VI folks together. They went to that school. And when they brought it culturally, when they showed the dances, they educated the school about our people. That Asian teacher, my friend, I just saw her at the Cal State Long Beach Powwow 2 weeks ago, and she said she was very emotional because coming from the Asian community, they understand the length of hair and how that provides wisdom, how that's power to us. So every time we go smudge, what do? Smudge our hair. We touch our hair. And we're even taught at the powwows, when you braid your hair, don't throw your hair on the ground because people could use that against you. You don't know who's walking along. And we cut our hair when we're in mourning. And when the hair comes back, it's new growth. Your mourning period is over, so you can walk peaceful in the next journey without that person in your life. So this is what we always have to teach the larger community about what we are about, what our traditional ways are, what is sacred to us. This whole being, our whole bodies. From Mother Earth, I dance jingle. I'm taught to pray. Mother Earth is your power. It comes through your dancing. And when I dance, I think of people who are sick. I think about people in my community. And when I go to dance, it's my time out from my 9-to-5 job. So when we talk about this, we're always, always battling who we are as a nation. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. We're going to take a couple more minutes and just go over these, and we'd like to hear, I'd like to pass the mic on to one of you. I hope you've been thinking about these. Do you know how many Native American, Indian, Alaska Native faculty and staff are employed by your institution or the closest college or university? Okay, this was a fairly high number when we look at the results. But what I'd like to do is I would like to just to go ahead and ask you to just kind of tell us how many faculty are at your Native American, Indian, Alaska Native faculty are at your university or college? Jim.
Center for Indigenous People Studies that I do, the same kind of statement has to be made there, which is, who is your community? You know, who are the people, what is your attachment to that community? So that, and that was an answer to your other question, so that that's not an abused question. Because all of a sudden you can say you're Indigenous from, let's say, Central America or Mexico, and you can manipulate that. And sometimes institutions manipulate it. So we're dealing with that here, and we're revisiting that. We not only have addressed these issues, we need to revisit it right here at this university.
Thank you. As you can see, these conversations could go on for a very long time. We want to keep this door open. We want to have these communications go on. And so at the end of this session, one of the things that we have accessibility to is Zoom, right? We get to see each other in little boxes. To be able to get together and continue these conversations. I'd like to also share with you that we do have organizations in Southern California, and we'd like to see this expand to other different places. We have what's called the ITEC, Intertribal Education Collaborative. The UCs, the CSUs, tribes, tribal organizations, we all meet together once a month. That list, right now there's 126 people on that list. And when we gather, we have anywhere from 20 to 40 people, and each campus hosted or Native organization to continue these conversations. It's not just talking about it, but it's doing something about it. And so we have a case right now that we're going to be looking at of a young man that lives in Los Angeles that he wants to wear a feather on his cap. He's being told that he cannot wear his eagle feather. This is an issue, and a lot of you are going, that's crazy. We're still, these are our battles. And so we want to, our voices are good, but we have to spread and get our voices out beyond four walls, right? We have to go into other four walls and other spaces to start sharing. And you know what? I get very frustrated when it's like people want to shut you down. You know, they want to shut us down. But we know, and those of us that are here in education and work in the communities and know that we continue to share our voices. So I'd like to go ahead and thank all of you for the participation. We didn't get to go through it as much as we wanted to. We'll continue at some other time, but we're going to also send out another link that if you would like to participate in a Zoom after this session of these conversations, we would like to continue this because we all do not see things in the same way, and we have to hear those voices. All right. I'd also like to speak to any of the scholars in the room, women scholars, because we're getting together to do an anthology on our experiences in higher education. Boy, that book's going to be a killer, isn't it? Okay, yeah, we need it. The other thing is, it is now our lunchtime, and we'd like to go ahead and please know that we always allow our elders to go first. And I'm not an elder yet, so I don't need to go. Kane doesn't make me an elder. But we'd like to go ahead and excuse the elders to go ahead and get in line, and then the rest of us can also go. All right, thank you so much, Esquile. Pam, thank you so much. Love being a partner with Pam. Thank you so much.
Thank you. In my Chickasaw language, impa means let's eat.
Hi, everyone. If I could get your attention, we're going to get Elder Kim Marcus to come up here and do a closing ceremony for us, and then I'll talk for a little bit, and we'll send you all on your way, so thank you.
Ne pangkutas ka kui, I'll speak Kuya. Janice and my heart. Mama Ache Batamia today is very good. I'm to see all your faces smiling. Bampuchilo to see. I've been Gil, been Jamaica, and Mataklo. Our people here, I said, with my friends, and my people, my relatives. In Korea, I spoke right now. The greatness and our Creator to be here with us, to give us that power, I guess, to go forward, to go forward. And that's when our big hearts to be inspired, I guess. There's no word for inspiration, but big heart to move forward. And that's how the language is interpreted in Korea. Some words we do not have, but a description of what the meaning of what we're trying to say. You've been here today participating and giving part of your life to reassure and assure that the continuance of our people, our relationships with our institutions, the government, state, federal, local, our relationships to each other as a people, to continue to go and strengthen. For our future generations, we have youth that are here today. We do this to assure you as youth that are here today, to assure you that you will have a better generation than what I grew up with, or maybe the next generation that came after me, so that your lives may have a better improvement and sustain, and to be able to go forward in your lives in a positive way. So you don't have to meet the challenges of what our ancestors went through, our generation went through. Mr. Levi, remember? Our generation that we went through with prejudice and the challenges that we were faced with. And we're bringing ourselves here to know that our people are here with you. That's what we're talking when we talk about, when we open up, our ancestors are here with us, and they're with you. And to give you that strength. In summarizing the event about the accumulation of all of us here today is power. My dad and my elder Albino reinforces that where our people are together like this, the power is there. And the power is there within you. California Indian Nation, we're so appreciative of you to be able to, our school is to be able to provide opportunity for us to gather and to share these strengths, our accomplishments, our challenges. Some call them failures, but there's no failures, there's just lessons learned. And the struggles that we go through on a daily basis in order to sustain our culture, our language, and our communities. And you're all part of that, sustaining our livelihood. Whether you're Indian or non-Indian here today, you're sustaining our livelihood of our people, which we're forever grateful to you for that. Professors, administrators, teachers, students, we all have a valuable part in community that are here today. We all have a valuable part to sustain our lives. That's our responsibility as people. And that tells us in our creation story what our lives is. And when you were initiated to, when you had initiation rites, they were taught to you what is your role to society, what your role and commitment to the earth, to the universe, and your relationship to all people, animals, plants, the earth. Those are our teachings. They're people. And your relationship to as a community. And so we're ever grateful to have California State University, San Bernardino, to provide an opportunity in an area and a forum for us to be able to meet. We're forever grateful. And for California Indian Nations College and Kumeyaay Community College, just give them a big hand for all the process of bringing us together. And you believe in yourself. We believe in ourselves. Stand up. Stand up and give yourself a broad pass. Applaud yourself. The greatness that you are as a people. And bring that back to us And to know that these young ones right here will have a life and opportunity to continue. You bring that to us, you, the people. Not us that are sitting here trying to coordinate everything. All these staff that are here, they did a great job. Let's give them a big hand. I mean, I cannot understand what they went through to make this happen, you know. I'm up here as a result of what they did, what you did. When we're speaking up here, it's a result of those at the grassroots that are up here, that are making behind the scenes make this happen. And you make this happen. We have all of our people. I'm looking at my people right here, staring right here, how valuable these elders are. Let's keep that connection with our elders and our youth and our people together, how strong that is. I want to say, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. And I have no other words to express. Sometimes we don't express words. My dad would just look at me, and I knew he loved me. Yeah, I knew my dad. My mom also. That's how they were, the old people. They look at you, and you knew that safe and comfort. Grandpa Raymond, Payomkowichum, it was a knot. Saying Noquanish, he looked at you, and you just knew that you were loved. He didn't say anything like that. He looked at you, and you knew you were loved. And that's the power that these people have. So I want to be able to say thank you again. And I know I'm just probably started talking too much. I'm going to stop now. I want to thank you for allowing me to be up here. Achima, thank you. And thank you for that.
Thank you, Klianakpak, which means thank you very much. Hello to all the bright students and the dedicated faculty and all of our guests. As you all know, I'm the development director for California Indian Nations College. And this weekend we heard from various educators, executive director with the White House Initiative, Naomi Miguel, AHEC, we heard from Anawake Rose. We heard from our Native elders and senators and congressmen and from students. If any SYNC trustees are here, I'd like you to stand up. If you're a SYNC trustee, if you can, please, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. We learned about the vital need for an accredited tribal college in California, scholarship access, tribal research, native arts, the importance of language immersion, our different assembly bills, 1821 about the Spanish mission, Assembly Bill 3015 for non-resident tuitions for border tribes, and culturally relevant education at a TCU. I want to sincerely recognize SYNC's staff and team. I want to recognize Ryan, if you want to come up on stage, please. Thank you so much. I want to recognize Regina and Sandra and all other staff. If you would like to stand, SYNC's. This summit wouldn't be possible without all of their great efforts, and you all did an amazing job. And I also want to recognize staff that provided us with our nourishing food for breakfast and lunch, and the IT and AV, thank you. Finally, I want to say to the students of SYNC College and other students that I am proud of you. We often don't hear this enough. And we are proud of you, so remember that. Lastly, as the Director of Development, I would be remiss if I didn't say that we are in need of money, so if you would like to donate, and you have the funds, or you come from folks that can help donate causes like this for us to become an accredited tribal college, please reach out to me. And thank you so much for attending the summit. Celeste, did you want me to add anything else? Thank you.
We still have a lot of food and we have to-go boxes, so please help yourself.